Hi friends, so today we are going over story structure. We share our presentation with you. Our learning target today. Do I have a volunteer to read it? Yes, David. Very good. I can describe what happens in the beginning, middle, and end of a story. Let's go over our anchor chart that we wrote in our notebooks a couple of days ago. Please open up to your anchor chart and follow along with me. B stands for the beginning. So what happens in the beginning of a story? Who can tell us what happens in the beginning of a story? Yes, Micah, what happens in the beginning of a story? Very good. We see the characters, we're introduced to them. Awesome. Garen, can you tell us what else sometimes happens in the beginning of a story? Okay, look over here of the word in orange. What does that say? Very good, the setting of the story. So where our story takes place. All right, now we're looking at the letter M. That stands for the middle of the story. What happens in the middle of the story? Yes, Matthew? Yes, there are different events that happen in the story. Very good, that's the middle. Yes, and then we also can sometimes see our problem starting, and sometimes that also happens in the beginning. Very good. And then our E stands for the end, ending of the story. What happens at the end of the story? Yes, Blaze, what happens at the end of the story? The characters do change sometimes. Very good. They are sometimes different in the end of the story than they were in the beginning. Very good. Levi, can you think of another thing that happens in the beginning of a story? I'm sorry, at the end of the story? Yes, the problem is solved. That's when we get our solution. Very good work. So I'm going to read this story for you, friends. I'd like you to follow along with me. It's called Flower Planting Day. And then we're going to go over looking at the beginning, middle, and end of this story. Nate lives in a city called Fort Hays. Every year, Fort Hays celebrates the first day of spring. They have an annual flower planting day. Nate was so excited to participate this year. He and his family went to the gardening section at the store. His family bought 10 different types of flowers. His mom promised him that he could plant 5 of the flowers. When they got home, the family began working in their yard. Nate dug 5 holes just like his mom had taught him and planted his flowers. When they were finished, the family walked around Fort Hays to see all the flowers. All right, now we're going to use our annotating tools. I'm going to show you where those are. So on the side over here, we have different tools that we can use. I'm going to use the red line to help us underline the beginning of the story. So let's look at the beginning. Nate lives in a city called Fort Hays. Do we have a character here? Adeline, can you think of a character that you see here? Nate, very good. We're meeting Nate. That's our character. That happens in the beginning of a story. Nate lives in a city called Fort Hays. What else happens in the beginning of this story? Let's see. Fort Hays celebrates the first day of spring. They have an annual flower planting day. That's also part of my beginning of the story. They have an annual flower planting day. And Nate was so excited to participate this year. So that's the beginning of the story. We're meeting Nate, and we're seeing what Nate is going to do in this story. Now for the middle, I want to use my blue underline tool to help me. He and his family went to the gardening section at the store. So this is one event that they're doing. They want to participate in the flower planting day. So they have to go to the gardening section. His family bought 10 different types of flowers. That also happens in the middle of our story. His mom promised him that they could plant 5 of the flowers. We also see that when they got home, the family began working in their yard. So they went to the gardening store, they bought flowers. Now the family is working in the yard. And they planted the flowers in their garden. That all happens in the middle. Those are different events that are happening in our story. And now I want to look at my last sentence, my last 2 sentences here. When they were finished, the family walked around Fort Haines to see all the flowers. So now I know what they did at the end of the story. They walked around as a family and looked at the flowers. That sounds like fun. I see a key word here too that will help me know that this is also the end. It's all the way at the end of my story. And then I also see the word finish. That means they are done with something. So that might help me know this is the end of my story. So I use these tools to help me as I'm going along. What I'm going to have you do as we're working together on the next one is you get to use these tools as well. So please make sure you're looking at my screen. We are going to go to Google Classroom. You're going to click on Story Structure. And your screen is going to look like mine. You're going to click this right here. And you'll see the story that we read together. And then you're going to see the next story that we're going to read. So as we're reading Toothbrush Games, I want you to follow along on your screen with me. Please give me a thumbs up when you have this open on your screen. Awesome, very good. Let's read this together. Toothbrush Games. Tim and Tina's mom called up to them from downstairs. She told them that their time was up in the playroom and they needed to get in the bathroom to get ready for bed. Tim and Tina hated going to bed. They wanted to play all night. Tim said, "Let's have a contest. Let's see who can brush their teeth the best." Tim and Tina started scrubbing away. They set their timer for 2 minutes and tried their best to clean every tooth. After their timer went off, Tim and Tina both used their magic mouthwash that showed where the plaque was on their teeth. Tim had 2 spots. Tina won! So this is our short story, Toothbrush Games. So we're gonna use these annotating tools here. Let's underline some parts in the beginning of the story. Sarah, what is something you would underline in the beginning of the story? Yes, we have our characters, Tim and Tina. Good. Yes, and they have to get ready for bed. Oh, it's bedtime. Okay, they have to get ready for bed. Now we want to look for the middle. We're going to use our blue underlining tool for the middle. Tim and Tina hated going to bed. They wanted to play all night. So we also have a problem here. Tim and Tina, they hated going to bed. Ooh, that's part of our problem. So this starts us off on our events. they decided to have a contest. So I'm going to underline where it says, Tim said, let's have a contest. And where it says, Tim and Tina, oh, let me get my other tool. Tim and Tina hated going to bed. That's part of our problem. So also in our beginning of our story. All right, now we want to look at the different things happening in the middle. So we have, they started their contest to see who could brush their teeth the best. What else could I use to underline in the middle of the story? Kylie? Yeah, good. They were scrubbing away, so we know that they're working on brushing their teeth. Very good. All right. Yes, and they tried their best to clean every tooth. Okay, so now we have the end of the story. What happens at the end? Remember, it's a contest, so there might be a winner. Garen, what happens at the end? Yeah, something with Tina. What happened with Tina? Very good, she did win. We can underline that. Tina won. Awesome. So now we're going to have questions to answer about the story. It says, what happens at the beginning of the text? So I want you to think, what happens at the beginning of the text? And we can look at where we underline too to help us. Jaden, what are you writing for the beginning? Good. Yes, write the character names, Tim and Tina. Very good. And what else happened at the beginning? What else did we underline? Levi, what else did we underline? Yes, they had to get ready for bed. Good. Very good. Those are great things to add to our beginning. I added them up here for you as well. So if you need help typing your answers, then you can look up here. At the beginning of the text, Tim and Tina's mom told them it was bedtime. They did not like going to bed. So I wonder if they can make this more fun. All right, then we're going to work on what happens in the middle of the text. Remember, you can go back to where we underlined in blue. What happens in the middle? What do they do? Make sure you're typing your answers. I want to see what you think. Alexis, what do you think? Yes, they're playing a game. What kind of game? Good, they're playing a game with their teeth. They're trying to see who cleans their teeth the best. Very good. They call that a contest in this story. So I had that in here too. Tim and Tina have a contest to see who brushes their teeth the best. And now we want to look, when you're done here, what events happen at the end of the text? Garen, what happens at the end of the text? Good, Tina won. We can look at our green that we used to underline as well. Tina won the contest. They made getting ready for bed fun. They sure did. So I will put this back up here for you, but what I'm going to have you do now is try the next one on your own. So the next story is called Science Class. And there are the same 3 questions that go with science class. Remember, you can use our underlining tools to help you when you're all done reading. If you would like me to read this aloud to you, just give me a thumbs up when you're ready and I will read this story aloud. If you would like to read it on your own, you may do that also. Okay. Science class. Chris loved going to Mr. Jim's science class. Chris saw all the tables set up into groups in Mr. Jim's classroom. Chris also saw spaghetti noodles, tape, and marshmallows on all